Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday, September 30th, indeed the last day of the month of September. We begin October on Thursday. We have a cooler, less humid air mass now in the mid-Atlantic region following the passage of a slow-moving cold frontal system in the overnight hours. That system produced some significant rainfall up and down the East Coast. We have a second cold front that should arrive late tomorrow night with some shower activity, not anything close to what we experienced in the overnight hours, but it will usher in quite a cool air mass for this time of the year for the Friday, Saturday, Sunday time frame in the Mid-Atlantic region, in the Great Lakes and Northeast U.S. Then we may have to deal with a storm system up along the Atlantic seaboard late Sunday night, Monday time frame. A little too early on the details of that. There's some potential for some decent rainfall with that system early next week. Well, as we approach the end of the month of September, let's take a look at the tropical scene and we'll kind of assess where we stand right now in terms of the overall tropical activity for the 2020 tropical season. As we get into the latter stages of the Atlantic Basin tropical season, I tend to focus in on the possibility of what I call homegrown systems. We often deal with waves coming off the west coast of Africa that travel to the west in the trade winds over the tropical Atlantic for the first half of the tropical season. But in the latter stages, like October, November, oftentimes the systems develop much closer to home, much closer to the U.S. mainland, places like the Caribbean Sea, the Gulf of Mexico, near the Bahamas, for example, as opposed to forming way out in the eastern Atlantic. And notice, first of all, nothing going on right now in the eastern Atlantic, but we do have a homegrown type of system forming over the Caribbean Sea. It looks like it will trek towards the Yucatan Peninsula region of Mexico over the next couple of days, and that often results in certainly a weakening of a tropical system. We'll monitor that closely over the next few days. But again, this is the area to really monitor more closely as we go through the latter stages of the Atlantic Basin tropical season. The Caribbean Sea, the Gulf of Mexico, the southwestern Atlantic, all of these still have some very warm waters, and this is a little bit more likely to be the area of formation of tropical systems over the next several weeks as compared with the central and eastern tropical Atlantic. Well, where do we stand so far for the 2020 tropical season, not only in the Atlantic but also the Pacific and throughout the northern hemisphere? We have had certainly an active season in the Atlantic Basin, albeit a little bit quiet over the last few days. And we've talked about this, one parameter called the accumulated cyclone energy. That is really probably the best way the truest way to measure overall tropical activity. It takes into account not only the strength of a tropical system, but its duration as well. So the combination of the two, the magnitude and the duration, contribute to accumulated cyclone energy. The higher the number, the more active the season, and indeed we have been above normal in the Atlantic Basin. The number in parentheses is the climatological average on the mean period 1981 to 2010. So the actual for this season in the North Atlantic, 105 versus the normal of 83.1. In other words, an above normal season so far with respect to tropical activity in the North Atlantic. However, take a look at the Pacific Ocean, and the Pacific is so large, we break it apart into the Eastern Pacific and the Western Pacific, or more specifically, Northeast Pacific versus Northwest. Both cases, the Pacific Ocean is actually below normal, actually well below normal. They have had a subdued season out across the world's largest ocean in the Pacific Ocean region. Overall, the Northern Hemisphere, because of what's been going on or what hasn't been going on in the Pacific Ocean, overall, Northern Hemisphere is below normal, actually pretty substantially below normal. 254.4 for the accumulated cyclone energy this tropical season in the Northern Hemisphere versus the normal for that base period of 1981 to 2010 of 396. So well below normal overall, despite an active season in the Atlantic Basin. These numbers, by the way, come from Colorado State University. Well, let's take a look at the surface map across the continental U.S., and we have this slow-moving cold front just now off the eastern seaboard. It produced some significant rainfall in the mid-Atlantic region, really up and down the east coast from Maine to Florida. A cooler, less humid air mass has moved into the mid-Atlantic region following the passage of this frontal system, and it will be quite breezy as well. Winds out of the west to northwest, and we have a secondary cold frontal system. These two will kind of combine into one secondary cold front by the time it reaches the eastern seaboard later tomorrow night. It will likely form some showers as low pressure tries to form along that frontal boundary zone. That passes through early Friday, ushers in a cool air mass for this time of the year, for the early part of October, that will encompass the Great Lakes, the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic region for the Friday, Saturday, Sunday time frame, and then we'll have to watch for the possibility of low pressure forming along the East Coast late Sunday night and Monday. Could even result in some significant rainfall. Meanwhile, out in the west, very dry, becoming hotter out in the western states, and that's not good news when it, with respect to wildfires. Continuing threat of wildfires over the past couple of weeks, and unfortunately that threat will increase as we go through the first half of the month of October, with hotter and continuation of dry weather out in much of the western part of the nation. Well, let's walk through the surface forecast maps from last night's operational run of the GFS. It's 6Z. These maps, by the way, from tropicaltidbits.com. Again, significant rainfall across the northeastern part of the nation as we begin the day here on Wednesday, but quickly clearing already in the I-95 corridor region. No rainfall for the rest of the day in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, becoming mostly sunny, cooler, breezy, less humid than yesterday, and then we'll continue into the day on Thursday, and another comfortable day, comfortable air in the Mid-Atlantic region for Thursday. And look at this, a strong, cold Canadian high-pressure system drops into the northern plains by tomorrow morning. And then the next frontal system, a cool frontal system, slides in late tomorrow night, and some showers form along that frontal boundary zone. Not a significant rain event like we had last night, but nonetheless there can be some showers, especially late tomorrow night from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City. Here we are into the overnight hours, and we'll have to watch for this. It could be a little bit of an intensification of this low pressure area at the last minute, late Thursday night into early Friday. Here's that chilly high pressure system that anchors this chilly air mass over the northern plains and all the way to the eastern seaboard. This is the Friday morning forecast, and then by Friday afternoon, rain-free conditions most likely at this time in the Mid-Atlantic region, and chilly air mass. And again, it looks quite cool for this time of the year for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Here we are now into Sunday morning. High pressure still in control. Notice that Caribbean Sea tropical wave makes it across the Yucatan Peninsula region of Mexico by the end of the weekend, and maybe will spill out into the southwestern part of the Gulf of Mexico. And again, we'll have to closely monitor these potential homegrown tropical systems as we go through the month of October, even into November. By the time we get to Monday, it could be a combination of a system over the Midwest that combines with low pressure along the East Coast that potentially produces some decent rainfall in the Mid-Atlantic region late Sunday night and Monday. So a couple of cold fronts, one sliding off the East Coast right now, and another cold front arrives along the eastern seaboard late tomorrow night, early Friday, and basically a chilly air mass Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in much of the central and eastern U.S. At the same time, the western states get hotter, drier, and enhanced wildfire threat out in that part of the nation. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.